Hey guys, welcome back to Ravenclaw Reads. I'm Courtney, and today you're joining me for my December wrap up. I cannot believe we're at the end of 2024, and you know what? I feel good about it. I feel like it was a great reading year for me, it was a great channel year for me. I'm gonna give a huge shout out to everybody that subscribed this year because I did hit that 1,000 person mark. I'm about 1,400 subscribers and just having a really great time doing what I enjoy doing, which is reading and talking about the books that I read, and just being authentically myself. It's been really great. So, December was an interesting month because I just had zero motivation to read. I knew we were rounding the end of the year. I'd already met my Goodreads goal, and I was just ready to chill. I actually was off or have been off since the 23rd. And so that has given me a lot of time to read, but also a lot of time to scroll and do everything except reading. And so I've embraced that fully. I'm totally okay with that, but it has been a journey. However, I did get 13 books read in December. I'm going to talk about those books with you because the last few books I read were top tier. And today is the 30th, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to read anything else today or tomorrow. Though I am reading or rereading Funny Story by Emily Henry. I've already read it, so if I finish it by the end of the year, that's fine. So let's get started with what I read this month. Okay, so I'm looking at my Goodreads. It looks like I actually read 14 books this month, and that's great. So the first book I read, and the few books in my month were holiday books because it was December, and I wanted to read holiday books, but I didn't want to overload myself in holiday books because that wouldn't have been true to my reading style. And this year, if you've been following, I've gotten really into literary fiction, thrillers, and just expanding my reading palette. And so I wanted to enjoy what I was reading without sacrificing some really good stories at the end of the year. So the first thing I listened to was actually an audiobook called Booked for the Holidays by Liz Maverick. This book, what was it even about? Look, I think this was about, it's a Hanukkah romance story. Okay, I had to pause and like really think about what this was about. This book is about two people. One's a publisher, and she has to get a book finished by one of the favorite authors, but the favorite author has passed away, and her grandson is now sort of taking over, and they work together to finish this book series. And of course, love happens from there. I think that's hard for me to remember because I finished it on December 1st, but I also listened to it on my purse Kindle because I had just received it and I wanted to listen to something and just sort of test it out. And it was a good read, entertaining enough that I finished it, but I gave it 3 stars. Next up, I read The Christmas Tree Farm by Lori Gilmore. This is part of the Dream Harbor series, book number 3. This is the same author. We're in the same series of Pumpkin Spice Cafe and Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I know there's a lot of back and forth about these books, but I actually like them. They are what they are. They're very uh, predictable, hallmarky with spice. And this one fell in the same. This one follows Kira and Bennett. Bennett is the sister of the girl, or excuse me, is the brother of the sister in the first book. And he is here just visiting. He works from home, and so he's just visiting his sister. And Kira, who has just moved to Dream Harbor and she bought a home, and unknowingly on her land is the town's tree farm. Now, I don't know how she doesn't know that, but she doesn't. We shall move on. We listen and we don't judge, and we move on. So he's actually walking his dog one day, and his dog goes on her land. They run into each other. They kind of hit it off. And Bennett doesn't think anything of it. However, Kira's been kind of recluse into herself since she moved to Dream Harbor. And so, as the town people hear that Bennett made a connection with her, they encourage him to get to know her for the town's sake. And they do. They're not like enemies to lovers, they just don't know each other. And she's not really trying to get to know him. He's really just trying to work. He thinks that she's pretty, but he's just trying to work and like be on vacation, not get into anything serious because he has recently been dumped. And so it's a romance. They get together. It's forced proximity due to a snowstorm, and I just feel like I ended up giving it 4 stars because it wasn't the best one in the series yet. But also the forced proximity was just like very corny and very like, you guys really put this together. So 4 stars for that, but still good if you like that series. Next, I read Mallory and the Dream Horse. This is book number 54 in the Babysitters Club. If you are new here, I am rereading the entire Babysitters Club series from the beginning. I have slowed down quite a bit because I've been reading a lot of other books besides Babysitters Club books, but I'm trying to read them bit by bit. This is a 4-star book for me. Not really going to go into it as a Babysitters Club book, but it was one of the better books that I've read. Mallory was one of my favorites when I was a younger person reading the books, when I was a kid reading the books, and her books can sometimes be really immature, and I haven't always enjoyed them, but this is one of the ones that I actually really liked. Then I read A Jingle Bell Mingle, which is Christmas Notch book number 3, and this is by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. Okay, this book follows Sunny and Isaac. Now, in this series, we're following the guys from a former boy band group, and each of them are kind of like related to this town, and it's all like interconnected in the same universe. Although you don't have to read them in order; they're in the same universe. So in this story, Sunny is writing a screenplay for the Hope Channel, which is like the thread through all of the books. It's like the Hallmark Channel. They also have a Hope After Dark, which is like Skinamax basically. But she's just writing a regular Hope Channel movie, so she needs to be in the area. She has nowhere to stay, and Isaac lives in the area. He has this mansion, I think, that he has either rented or lives in or whatever, but he's wanting to do more music, and so he wants to write a winter album in this winter scenery. And so they have forced proximity roommate situation. I think they hooked up once before as a one night stand. I also think Isaac is bisexual. Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone do a really great job in all of their books about representing different types of lifestyles, and so that's pretty interesting. But it wasn't my favorite. It's one of those things where I read 2 of these last year, I want to say, or maybe 3, and they were good last year, and this year they just are not hitting the same. It's not at all interesting in the way that it used to be, and so it wasn't my favorite, but a 3-star. Then I read Jesse's Gold Medal, book number 55. This was a 3-star for me. Again, 3 stars is the lowest I'll give for a Babysitters Club, so the Mallory book got a 4, means it's pretty good. And Jesse's Gold Medal got a 3, which is not that great. I did mention in one of my weekly wrap-ups that it's a shame that all of the books about Jesse, who's our only black female character in Stony Brook, are not the best books. It just wasn't that good, so I didn't love it. Okay, next, things started turning around for me. I read Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak. Jason Rekulak also wrote Hidden Pictures, which I read last year. It was like one of the first books I read on my Scribe. It was so cool because it was like multimedia sort of interactive book where you have like drawings and all that in it. But Last One at the Wedding is just a thriller. It follows a dad whose daughter calls after 3 years of not speaking to say she's getting married. And obviously the dad is pretty surprised, number one, to have heard from his daughter, but also to find out she's getting married. And so she wants to have her dad meet her fiance. And they meet, and then they plan to go to the wedding. Well, the fiance is this like billionaire's son who lives in this small town, but his family pretty much owns the whole town, and they're on this sort of removed land for the wedding. And then weird deaths start happening, and the dad has like an idea that like something's not right, and he's trying to warn his daughter, but if you read it, you'll find out that there's no way he can warn her, just based on who she is and what she's about. And so yeah, it was really good. It's hard to talk about thrillers because I don't want to give it away, but I highly recommend it. I did give it 5 stars. It was really good. I love the way Jason Rekulak writes. It's also not a super long book. It doesn't have a lot of lull in the middle. There's something happening the whole way through, and that always captivates my attention. All right, next up, I read Dashing All the Way by Chelsea Curto. Okay, I almost forgot about this book because I was doing my Goodreads sort of Wrapped, which I will discuss more in a different video, and this book hasn't been shelved by anybody in Goodreads ever, I guess. Anyway, This book follows Margot and Finn, and Margot has been training for a half marathon with her boyfriend, and then he dumps her, but she decides she's going to run the marathon anyway. And she runs the half marathon, but at the end passes out. And Finn, our MMC, is there to save her. He's actually a volunteer firefighter, and is trained to help people in distress. And he he helps her out. She's immediately smitten. However, there's like a huge age gap, like 16 to 20 years difference. But they do have like a one night stand that just keeps going, and a relationship happens. But there's a weird twist in this book that I don't want to mess up for anybody. But it was a 3-star book for me. Super cute. Yeah, I liked it. Okay, next up, I've read Novel Story. I forgot about this one too. Like, I don't know what happened to December. Anyway, this book follows Syra and who's the guy? What's his name? My goodness, I'm looking at the Dorian. Okay, so Sarah is a writer. She has to write a book immediately. It has to be a Christmas book, and it is Christmas time. And her publisher says that she needs to have an idea down by January, and then they'll look to publish the book the following Christmas. So Sarah, having no ideas in her head about a Christmas book because she's not very Christmassy anyway, heads to Christmas. What's it called? It's like a Christmas town, but it's literally called like Santa Claus or Christmas or something. And she goes there to write her book and runs into Dorian, who is the owner of the duplex that she's staying at, sort of like her Airbnb. She runs into him on the street. She recognizes him because he's part of this firefighter calendar. He's Mr. December. And so she's attracted to him, but she's just trying to focus on her work. But over time, they fall in love as they keep running into each other throughout the town because the town's very small. Dorian's wife actually had passed away, so everybody's kind of looking out for him, but excited that he's getting back into the game with Sarah. That book was okay. Like I said, 3 stars. It did take me like 5 days to finish it, which is not normal for me because of my reading speed. So usually if it takes that long, I just feel like it wasn't the best book. So then let's get into a string of good books. The last few books I had were like great books for the end of the month. I read Holiday Hideaway by Mary Kay Andrews. This was the novella. I give it 4 stars. I figured I would read a little holiday novella just to like get something done because at this point in the month it was midway and I had not read that much. But this book follows our FMC who has been sort of squatting in a house for about a year, and the grandson of the owner of the house comes after the grandfather passes away, and he's looking to fix up the house, well, check out the house, fix it up, and sell it. And starts hearing noises, obviously, and he finds out that the FMC lives there, and then they start working together to fix up the house. And eventually, they don't sell it because they love it so much and they fall in love. But it was really cute. It was written in a very comical way, almost like British comedy, and so that was good too. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. So next, I read "We Used to Live Here" by Marcus Kleiger. I don't know how to say his last name. It starts with a K. And I gave this book 4 stars. This book had been on my TBR for a hot minute. I had bought the book on Kindle and just never read it. But as I was going through the end of the month, I really wanted to go through the books that I hadn't read because there's so many and I don't need to buy anything if I've already got it in my arsenal. So I picked this up, and this book follows, let's see if I can figure out the names. Okay, this book follows Charlie and Eve. They are a same-sex couple who have just bought a home, and one day when Charlie's at work, Eve gets a knock on the door, and it is a gentleman named Thomas and his family who Thomas claims he lived there as a kid. He's passing through town, and he just wanted to show his family the home. Eve is hesitant, rightly so, as I would be as well. She tries to call Charlie to see like what Charlie's advice is because Eve's pretty unsure of herself, and Charlie doesn't answer, so Eve lets them in, and The moment they get in the house, weird stuff starts happening. They go to the basement. She's kind of following them around, but Thomas knows the home. And it's kind of a weird vibe. Charlie finally comes home. She feels saved. They have dinner, and then a storm comes through where they can't move their vehicle that they are traveling in, and so they invite the family to sleep overnight, which is also crazy because look, they would have just had to sleep in the car that night. It wouldn't be me, but they did. And in the middle of the night, the front doors open, and Thomas is outside, sort of in a frozen state, crying on the front lawn and talking about a girl named Allison. Obviously, Charlie and Eve are thrown off, and then from there, it just gets weirder and weirder. This story has non-linear timelines in it. It's got like portal sort of stuff happening, supernatural things. And the ending was not the best, which is why I got 4 stars instead of five. It was going to be a 5 star book for me, but I did not enjoy the ending at all. It did not do justice to Eve whatsoever. So, great book. Okay, next I read Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. This book has been on my Kindle for a while as well. I gave this a 3.5. It's a really good book. It follows our FMC whose mother calls her out of the blue. Our FMC has been an orphan and foster kid her entire life due to her mother's addiction. Her mother calls her out the blue, and her mother's having a baby. And wants the FMC to take care of the baby to ensure the baby has a stable life, which is something the FMC did not have. The FMC definitely takes the baby and wants to raise her. However, in order to do that, she has to have certain things in place with the foster or the state agency. So in order to be full guardian, it's like finances, home, and something else. And she has a home, but her finances aren't the best. And so they have a program where if there are foster parents that are kind of missing something, they'll match them together. And they have time to get solid in whatever they're missing, so that they can have full guardianship over whoever they're trying to foster. And so they pair her up with our MMC, who is fostering his brother. And it starts off as a grumpy sunshine, where he's just not interested in anything physical. She's really not either, but she's open to it because he's cute. And he's really cranky because he just wants what's best for his brother. And as time goes on, they start helping each other. Obviously, she has the baby, and the baby has fetal alcohol syndrome, so it's pretty hard to take care of the baby. But they don't really dive into that much, which is odd. I also thought, so we can talk about why it's not the best and why I got 3.5. The FMC, I guess she kind of felt that she should get help from the male main character, which yes, but she almost felt like she was entitled to it. And that kind of felt weird to me because like he's not the baby's father, he's literally just a roommate, but he would help her like take a shower and whatever, things like that. The baby in the story was very unrealistic because like nothing ever happened to the baby. Like they would leave the baby sleeping for hours. Okay, this baby was perfect, and a baby with fetal alcohol syndrome would not have been that way, and so that kind of threw me off. But otherwise, it was a really good book. I do like Hannah Bonham Young's writing. I read Out on a Limb this past year, and I'm looking forward to Out of the Woods. And this one was good too. Like I said, 3.5 is a good rating. It's just a little unrealistic for me. Then I read Never Lie by Frida McFadden. If you have been watching for the past couple weeks, I've been on my Frida McFadden grind. And this book is a 5 star for me. This book follows a married couple who are going to see a home. Their realtor has shown it to them, and they go to see it on a snowstorm night. They get stuck sort of in their car, but they're in walking distance to the home. A light is on, so they figure the real estate agent is there. They get to the home, nobody's there, but they start making themselves at home, which is odd. There's fresh food in the fridge, so it's like somebody has lived here. But they find out that the former owner of this home is an author slash psychiatrist who has gone missing. And the wife in particular is very intrigued by this and starts sort of snooping around and finds some tapes that she has recorded of sessions she's had with her clients. And so as the FMC is listening to these tapes, she's trying to put together what might have happened to the lady who went missing, the author. And so, again, this is a thriller, so I don't want to give too much away. But the way it ties up at the end and the way that the husband and wife are interconnected really threw me. I had no idea that was coming. And so that's always exciting to me when I can't guess it, because I usually guess a book pretty quickly. If it's too predictable, I know what's going to happen right away. I lose interest, but this book did not do that. I was able to maintain high interest because her thrillers are just really fast paced and they make sense. And it was great. So, 5 star for that. Okay, it feels like I've been talking a lot. I swear it's only 14 books, but two more to go for December. So I've been read Definitely Better Now by Ava Robinson, which was a Book of the Month Club book that I had from December, or from, yeah, December, which I just actually canceled my Book of the Month Club. Um, I think I talked about this in my catch up video, but I'm really focusing on digital books and not having a whole bunch of clutter. You can see behind me, my bookshelf is gone. I have donated a ton of books, and just really focusing on clearing up clutter in my life. And so this book is no longer here, but I did read it and I did cancel Book of the Month because I just went digital books. So, anyway, this book is a 3 star. Um, and this book follows Emma, who is a recovering alcoholic. She's 1 year in of being sober. And now that she's been sober for 1 year, she can like date and just sort of like do other things besides like focusing on her sobriety. And then we have her coworker Ben, who is an IT guy, and they start kind of hanging out. But she has a really hard time being honest with him. And I put on my Goodreads that she's pretty insufferable the entire book. She's just kind of like down on life, down on herself. Everything takes her out. And Ben's just so nice the whole way through. And he doesn't have to be. He doesn't owe her anything. Um, this book was mid for me because of those reasons. And I think that there wasn't really anything exciting. But this is like a literary fiction. It's not really a romance. Emma and Ben have romantic moments, but it's not a romance. And so it was pretty good. And now that I talk about it, it wasn't the best, but in the moment, it was okay. And then the last book I had read was The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose, which I gave 2 stars. So this book just did not hit for me. And I don't know if it's because I've been reading Frida McFadden and I feel like Frida McFadden is a solid writer of thrillers or what, but in this book, we're following, oh, what's her name? Sarah and her husband, Adam. Adam's having an affair, and one day he wakes up, leaves his mistress, and then she turns up dead in his bed, and he's the last person he saw her. They were hanging out at the family lake house. He's a writer, supposed to be writing. His wife, Sarah, is an amazing lawyer, and he's up at the lake house having the time of his life, and then gets charged for killing his mistress. Because his wife is an attorney, she becomes his defense lawyer, which is a horrible decision. But she has to find out all the things that happened with this situation. It's a thriller again, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. I don't recommend it, but I picked it up because I read one other book by Geneva Rose this year, and it was good. But this one, in comparison to like a Frida McFadden, was trash. This book, just the plot was really thrown together. There seemed to be a lot of loopholes. New characters kept being thrown in to sort of like create an element of something more is going on, and it wasn't really that serious. It was to the point I read about 75% into the book. Yes, I'm counting it because then I googled like who did it. Because at that point I was like, I don't even care, but like I have to know who did it. And the ending made 0 sense in the long run, especially with the book that's coming out next. I think it's like The Perfect Divorce. So I just did not enjoy it. I won't be moving on with that book, The Perfect Divorce. And I don't know, the Geneva Rose writing style wasn't it for me. And like I said, I don't know if it's been tainted because I was reading so much Frida McFadden, but that one just was not it. So those are all the books that I read in December. Like I said, I feel like I've been talking a lot. There were quite a bit of books, but it was a great way to end the year. I feel like this year, part of my intention was to slow down my reading and really read books I wanted to read. Last year I read around like 211 books. This year I'm stopping at 172. And I think that's a great number because every book that I read was something that I wanted to read. I DNF what I didn't want to read. And it was a great year. So December fell in line with that as well. And so, yeah, that's everything I read. I would love to hear what you read in December, if you read any of these books, or what your thoughts are. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I love responding to your comments. And stay tuned for another video in the next couple of days as I discuss my year wrap up. So, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.